Good morning, everyone. Joining us on stream and the Ivor Dent Sports Complex in Edmonton, Alberta at the Canadian Ultimate Championships 2019. My name is Clayton Hallett, and I'm joined here with Joel Bellavance, and we're bringing you our first stream matchup of the tournament in the Open Masters division between Alberta's Carbon and Saskatchewan's Queen City Kings. So far, my recon has told me that this is going to be a good matchup, and these teams have faced off against each other quite a few times and have good histories and sometimes adversarial histories. So we should be in for a little treat this morning. Joel, have you seen these guys play before?
No, I haven't seen these two teams compete, but I'm definitely excited. And we've got a pretty strong headwind here, or sort of moving horizontal across the field.
That's kind of been the story. I was streaming the junior tournament the last few days, and on our second field here, our Cliff Bar Showcase field, the wind has been moving towards the camera. If you're looking in the video here, the wind is coming right at us. It proved in the junior tournament that a lot of shots, a lot of hucks would float constantly over to us, pushing a lot of things out of bounds and catching a lot of edges and pushing it into the ground. So the wind wasn't a definitive factor in the juniors tournament, but it definitely played a part. But of course, you know, this is Masters. They've got this figured out, so no problem, right?
Yeah, definitely. Years and years of throwing. They definitely should have the skills to handle some wind.
All right, so Queen City Kings pulls the start. That pull lands in bounds. Kings coming down just with a person defense. Foul called right off the bat. Welcome to the Masters division. That was number 37 on Carbon with the disc, Steve Enns. He finds 79, Sean Bernard in the middle. Gets a flip around to Chris Reed. Reed finds Ben Burke. And Patrick McQuarrie not quite in. Swings it around. And Carbon with some quick movement from Bernard to Burke. 1-0 Carbon. So they start the game with an O-line hold.
A pretty good movement down the open side there. Yeah, we're gonna need a bit more defensive pressure.
I think the teams are going to take a little while to suss each other out here and this weather. We saw a lot of calibration happening on these fields by our other showcase games. Teams kind of a little tentative about getting into this weather and seeing how the conditions favor them. We also saw a lot of slipping on these fields, a lot of blown tires in the junior division. The fields proved to be, while the grass is short, in some areas a little too short. And so we might just see the players try and get their feet underneath them right now. So the pull for Carbon is going to be number 44, Michael Stoddard. Right, a good pull. Going to land inbounds, just beyond the brick. Carbon comes down in a match defense. PY to 23, Jared Woloshin. And he's going to put up a pass contested catch. He was looking for number 7, John Petey Schmidt, but number 4 on Carbon, Greg Adamson, is there to break that up. And Michael Stoddard moves back to retrieve the disc. Carbon setting up in a vertical stack offense. Stoddard had to cut off the back of the stack, but elects to go for the dump. And the disc is worked around to number 21, Paul Graff, but the wind just making him bobble there and a quick turnover. Now, number 10, Tyler Thurmeyer, had an open number 7, John Petey Schmidt, but that throw behind Schmidt. Stoddard picks up. Swings over to Boyd. Boyd unleashes, big backhand. Miller in the area and brings it down. Big D by number 5, James Miller. Thurmeyer to Petey. Over to Bond. Bond looking for options. Elects to go up line, which leads to a great OI huck. Bringing that in was Schmidt, and the throw from number 10, Thurmeyer. Joe, how are you finding the Queen City Kings offense here?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good first offensive points. I think that first sort of huck look that they took was pretty good. It hung up a little bit for the receiver, and it was a tough adjustment. But Thurmeyer there with just a fantastic OI blade right into his receiver's hands. Good timing. Maybe something to think about is putting a bit more edge on that OI, getting it to sit so it doesn't sit up in the wind. So good adjustment there, and obviously it's nice to get your first hold. So good defense as well. I think that was number 21 maybe with the.
Oh, they got the bring down on number 5, James Miller.
Right,
James
James
had the D on that huck. Yeah.
Yeah, great defensive play. It's always nice to get your first hold.
So number 11 for Carbon, Ben Burke, is going to field this, but it looks like we have an offside call. I did not see who that was on. For those of you not familiar with offsides, a team can't cross the line before they pull. It looks like it was offside on Carbon. They'll get a warning. The next time a team goes offside after they get the warning, if they're receiving, they will have to tap the point in from the center of their own end zone. If it's the pulling team, the disc moves up to the very half of the field. All right, Burke has Macquarie in the middle. And he goes to number 79, Sean Bernard, but that is just out of his reach. Sean Bernard, a player I played against last year with Prince George. Very, very fast. Annoying to cover. Kings now doing a little dump swing. Number 32, Greg Smith, airs that out. But again, seeing how the wind is impacting this a little bit, as Dwayne McFadden could not reel that in, or I should say, didn't have a chance to, as the wind that just carried that away from him. Macquarie brings it up the line. Looking for options. Has the dump. Bernard now. Looks to flick huck, but it's too short for Chris Reed. Joe, it feels like we're starting to see the wind play a part here.
Yeah, the wind is actually picking up. It's getting pretty aggressive here, and definitely need a lot of spin on your throws.
Fraser. Miller. Looks off the up line. Goes around to Smith. He finds Fraser. Back to Smith. Back to Fraser. And he finds Miller open, and that throw, while low, Miller's able to just lean over, grab that at his shins, and that is a break. for Queen City Kings.
Yeah, the first time that defensive unit for Queen City Kings got the disc, they took a deep look, a pretty aggressive deep look, and with the short field turnover on the second play, really nice, patient offense, just working it into the end zone, hitting that break throw, and it's a pretty nice break to get at this point in the game on the second point for sure.
This is the kind of win where, at least in the juniors tournament, it was indicative that patience pays off. Taking those 100% shots, as the wind is not, while it's strong, it's definitely not consistent and has been gusty and sometimes disappearing and sometimes being quite intense. So making sure that your decision to throw is something you know is going to be completed, and just going for the easiest option and looking off those risky ones is proved to be winning formula earlier this week. So if you're just joining us, we're here on Field 2, our Cliff Bar Showcase Field at the 2019 Canadian Ultimate Championships, and we're bringing you the Open Masters Division, brought to you by Discraft. The score is 2-1 for the Queen City Kings from Saskatchewan versus Carbon from Alberta. These teams have a lot of experience playing each other. Macquarie fields that out of bounds pull. He'll bring it up to the brick. Carbon in a vertical stack. Macquarie goes over the top to Greg Adamson, who finds Reed. Adamson back to Reed. Reed able to box out his defender to keep that alive. Just outside of the end zone now. Back to Macquarie. And Macquarie with the backhand break, I believe, to Bernard. That's a quick hold for Carbon. Scores 2-2. So we're seeing some emergent players here, Joel. Who are you liking?
Yeah, really a few offensive players on both teams doing some great work. Macquarie was a great break to sort of start the flow there out of the vertical stack. Hit that kind of a high release flick break. Interesting choice in the wind, but executed really well. And they continued the flow all the way up the break side there, and then got that last backhand into the end zone. Really good offense from them. It's a nice way to respond after being broken the point before. So it's kind of a good opportunity now for them defensively to maybe try to get that break back.
Yeah. I'm not totally familiar with the Queen City Kings, but I know one player to watch is going to be number 35, Pierre-Yves Levertu, or just known as PY. Probably the most friendly ultimate player I've ever met in my life. But really has a lot of heart, and I'm hoping to see him make some big plays in this game. Not for a preference of who's winning, but he's just an exciting guy to watch.
Yeah, he's a really good athlete, makes some pretty big explosive plays. Yeah, interested to see how he does. It looks like they've moved him over to the offensive unit for this point.
So PY is going to pick up. Bring that over to the brick mark. Kings setting up in a seemingly horizontal stack offense. Trying to stay in motion right off the bat and not like Carbon said. Smart. Smith back to PY. PY lets a big backhand go. It's going to float. We do have some contact and fouls, but number 43, Dwayne McFadden, was in the area to clean that up. And he goes back to Clyde Fraser. Fraser just checking up on Greg Adamson there after that collision. Looks like both players agreed that they didn't have a play, and when McFadden was in the area to clean it up, no foul calls. And that's a little bit different than what we saw in the junior division earlier this week. Maybe a note there to experience, as the players knowing that their chance at that catch was kind of over and didn't affect the outcome of what happened after. So PY keeping it exciting for us, no doubt.
Yeah, he took a shot there, hung up in the wind a little bit. Kind of got lucky that the backside receiver caught that pass after the two initial receiver and defender sort of tripped up with each other. So it's a nice offensive hold to get.
So Smith with the pull. It's fielded by number 11, Ben Burke. Goes to Macquarie in the middle. Macquarie flips it up to Bernard. Bernard gets a nice backhand break to number 12, Chris Reed. Back to Macquarie. To Bernard. Over to Burke. Burke finds number 20, Gavin Chung. And Gavin's able to sneak one to Reed, who then makes a quick flip to number 37, Steve Enns. Carbon with another quick hold, demonstrating that they want to score these offensive points quick. I'm feeling like Macquarie is the one driving this offense right now. He's getting some support, but definitely the point man on moving this offense up the field.
Yeah, he's really doing a good job. He looks so confident with the disc, knows what he's looking for as a thrower, and really a great job there to once again attack the break side with those inside-out backhands. Just doing a good job of continuing that flow up the field. I'm sort of surprised we haven't seen any new defensive looks from either team. I'll be interested to see who sort of makes the first adjustment here. We've seen a lot of offensive holds and no real zone yet. A little bit of poaching here and there, so it'll be interesting to see who makes maybe the first sort of zone adjustment.
So Stoddard's going to pull for Carbon. And that pull is a laser, but it stays in bounds. And Carbon's able to get a defense on before it's past the brick line, so all is not lost. Queen City Kings moving the disc quickly and then looking for number 7, Brett Seibel. But that huck is just a little too low and too short, and defenders in the area are able to knock it away. I believe it was number 7 that knocked that away, or number 8, Derek Boyd, that did. So Stoddard bringing the disc up. And he looks for an up the line cut from number 24, Stephen Lafin, but that is too far. And the Kings are looking to capitalize now. Bond finds Miller. And Miller, maybe a little bit of a miscue as he expected his receiver just to stand there, but instead finds a Queen City Kings receiver instead. Number 10, Thurmeyer, feeling that out of bounds throw. He finds Miller in the middle. Miller flips it to Finch. Goes around and then gets it over to Troy. And Troy is able to air that out for John Petey Schmidt. Point Queen City Kings. So our score now is 3-3. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that right? No.
4-3.
Yeah, just have to fix up our scoreboard
That's
here.
right.
I'm doing double duty. I'm not doing very well. All right, so the score is correct now.
Yeah, that's right. Queen City Kings have 1 break and 3 offensive holds per side. Pretty nice play there. Stoddard had a great D there for Carbon and took a good shot downwind, but yeah, we just saw that disc sort of float up over the receiver's head once again. Good play by Thurmeyer to sort of get to the backside of the receiver and hold them underneath the disc in a bad angle. Yeah, and Thurmaier playing really great offensively. Really good break throws, keeping everything moving. Miller's been getting lots of nice passes in the inside.
So that pull by Smith lands inbounds and then rolls out. So Carbon will take this from where it went out of bounds. Centered to Macquarie. Back to Burke. Burke finds the backhand break to Reed. And Reed finds Chung in the middle. Chung over to Burke. To Bernard. Bernard lets the backhand fly to Macquarie, who's able to track that quite easily. A great throw by Bernard to lead Macquarie. No real danger by a play there by Topinka. So our score is now 4-4. Now, just as we were saying earlier, it seems the wind has died down for a second, so that lack of consistency with the weather means we're going to see a lot of different things. I mean, that huck even by Bernard there just sort of sat for Macquarie, kept its edge, good spin, but at the same time didn't have to contend with any big gusts.
Yeah, Macquarie having a really good start here. Sort of noticed that he's being pushed away from the disc, and he was happy to move downfield. And
I don't know if happy is the right term. I think the whole Alberta crew can respect the fact that Macquarie probably was just content with that. You know, I hear getting him to smile is one of the hardest things in the universe. Perhaps if he has a good game and hears himself complimented on the stream, you know, maybe we can get one out of him. So that pull by Carbon is high and sails out of bounds. So number 10 for Queen City Kings, Tyler Thurmaier. He's going to bring that to the brick mark. Seems we have, I want to say, a split stack from the Queen City Kings here. And first look to Miller, but elect to go around to the break side. Woloshin, it goes back to Thurmaier. Thurmaier looking for options. We're seeing a bit of a poachy defense from Carbon here in the lanes. Wolo puts up a big backhand huck, and that stays out of bounds for most of the time as the wind is not going to let that come back in, but it seems we've got a foul call on the throw, so that's going to come back to Woloshin. Looks like we'll be coming in at stall 1. Wolo goes back around to Thurmaier. Thurmaier finds Miller. And Miller's backhand is foot blocked by number 26, Luigi De La Torre. Great foot block. Had a lot of authority. Stoddard looks for Adamson, but that dump throw is just out of reach. So the Queen City Kings will have an opportunity to get their hold back here. Woloshin looking for options. Thurmaier is there for the around. And he finds number 33 who reels that in, Greg Hazel. Who did he flip that to, Joel?
Flipped it to Miller. Number 5, Miller with another goal.
And that's a hold for the Kings.
Yeah, once the Kings are able to move it to the far side of the field, we're seeing sort of both teams get pressured to stay on the close side. And once again, Thurmaier hitting a nice around break to sort of start things off, and the disc kept moving all the way to the far side of the field. It's really great disc movement. Nice little bobble catch there by Hazel, I believe. And Stoddard Stoddard, a second turnover, second defensive point, so he's going to want to just sort of focus in and make sure that the next time his defensive unit gets the disc, he'll make a good decision and execute well on the throw. They're definitely getting those opportunities, Carbon is, to get that break back. And
yeah,
I think the sort of the poachy look they had defensively there looked pretty good, actually.
Smith's pull, centered to Macquarie. He gets Bernard off the front of the stack. And Bernard lets a big backhand rip go up to number 12, Chris Reed. And
Fantastic.
Reed with a great run. Now that was kind of a textbook play, I think, eh?
That is a really well executed offensive set play. Hitting Bernard underneath. Looked like maybe just an open side cut, but another well executed huck. Fantastic.
So if you're just joining us, we are on the Cliff Bar Showcase Field here at Ivor Dent Sports Complex in Edmonton, Alberta, bringing you an open division Masters matchup brought to you by Discraft between Alberta's Carbon and Saskatchewan's Queen City Kings. This is our first stream of the adult tournament. The score is 5-5. So far we've seen that the wind is playing a part, but not dictating this game. We have seen no zone yet. I think it's safe to say we've just seen some fundamental turnovers that are always annoying for any experienced player. Some bobbles, some throws just sailing out of bounds. So, but we've got a tight match here. So Stoddard's pull is fielded by Wolishin, who centers to Troy. Troy finds Miller. Goes back to Troy in the middle. Troy goes around to Thurmeyer. Thurmeyer back to Troy. Miller stutters a bit, then makes an undercut. Just in the center now. Number 6, Finch, who puts it up. And that's a great backhand to, I believe it was number 7, Brett Seibel. Confirm that just when he turns around here.
Yeah, Seibel just getting a little bit of space there off his defender, and another really well executed backhand huck in these conditions. It's nice to see both teams sort of settling in and both finding their groove. Really great offense.
As you said earlier, though, we're not really seeing any defensive adjustments to tackle these offensive sets, eh? I mean, a good slough or a zone for three throws or something like that off the pole is always something to break up these sort of initiating plays. And I'm sort of surprised we haven't seen one of those yet.
Yeah, definitely. I'm surprised we haven't seen a more traditional zone. I think that's something they should definitely be utilizing, especially Carbon's offense has been pretty good here.
All right, Macquarie finds Bernard. Bernard has had a dangerous backhand huck from this position this game. But he goes up line to Macquarie. Macquarie thinks about it. Instead goes to Reed. Back to Bernard to Macquarie. And Reed streaking up line, just using his superior speed right there to get by 2 defenders. And another quick hold for Carbon.
Yeah, really great work between Macquarie, Bernard, and Reed. Once again, moving the disc really well. And really not struggling at all on offense. I think that sort of goes back to the adjustments. We haven't really seen any defensive adjustments here, especially with Carbon's offense has been really smooth the last couple of points. So I'm sure Queen City Kings are sort of talking about what their next defensive point's going to look like and what they're going to try to do. And Carbon still looking to get their first break of the game. This defensive unit has had the disc a few different times, and we'll see if they'll be able to generate that turnover they need and then work the disc down offensively.
So Stoddard is going to pull again. Seems to be the main puller for Carbon. That's probably why his pulls have generally stayed in bounds. Another one landing. Center to Wolshin and then over to Troy. To Hazel, who finds Fink. Fink was looking for the number 7 Schmidt, but that's broken up by Carbon. Laughing now. Finds Simcoe. Over to Boyd. Boyd looking for options. And he finds Simcoe again. Adams with the disc, now number 8, Boyd. You're seeing sort of a sloughy defense here from Queen City Kings to shut down those undercuts, but now as they shift to hard match, Carbon's opening up some undercuts. Boyd over to Stoddard, that is. De La Torre's pass is just pushed down in the wind. So Troy meanders up. Looks to Wolishin for the dump. It's not there. Instead elects to go to Finch. And Finch airs that one out perfectly for number 21, Travis Bond. A great throw there. Able to lead his receiver, whom seemingly left alone in the deep shot there.
Yeah, tons of space deep. Really well executed throw from Finch. And that's going to be one Carbon's going to want to have back. They earned the disc and were able to move it around a little bit around the end zone, but unfortunately just that around backhand they were trying to hit went to the ground. And then Queen City Kings responding really well.
Bobby. Okay, so our score is 7-6 for the Queen City Kings. Half will be taken at 8, or if we surpass a 45-minute half, they just add a point to the highest score. But now that we're at 7, half will definitely be at 8.
Pretty crucial point in the game here.
So Burke centers to Macquarie, goes to Bernard. Hearing that a lot. Chung finds Reed, flips it to Macquarie. Does a give-go with Reed. Reed again showing off that superior speed to Macquarie. And looked for Reed up the line. Instead finds Bernard. And with a big jump in is number 11, Ben Burke. And there we saw some superior speed, I believe, from Carbon there, able just to keep those give-goes going and quickly rifle that up the field. We've got a timeout that has been taken at 7-7 just before half. Why not get 2 breaks or two rests in a row?
Yeah, that was a really good offensive hold from Carbon. That's a pretty crucial point in the game. If they get broken there, Queen City Kings is 8-6 receiving out of half. So really nice movement. Macquarie called that timeout right after they scored, knowing that it's 7-7 and you know, he wants to get that break back and take half. It's a crucial point in the game. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some of those offensive players like Bernard and Macquarie move over to the defensive line. It's a good time to do it right before half.
Also with the game this tight, I think now after the first half is just about over, might be a time where we see these two teams play some other cards rather than just match defense, but we'll find out. So far my hot takes have been awful.
Yeah, they've really just sort of stuck to their person-to-person defense. They've tried different forcing middle, a little bit of poaching here and there, but nothing like, no traditional sort of zone sets. I'd be interested to see if Carbon does something special here. I think they do need to slow down Queen City. Queen City's really been hitting those backhand hucks as well, showing that they can do it consistently and effectively. So maybe Carbon looking to looks like they might be setting up some sort of zone. We'll see.
We're also seeing some traditional O-line players. Some regular O-line players we've been seeing on Carbon here playing D-line now. That's Bernard with the disc, who's going to pull.
Yeah, Bernard and McQuarrie both out there.
I think. Yeah, and Reed. So Bernard's pull. Sits right in the end zone. Great pull. The wind's kind of died down, so that was helpful. Wolishin over to Troy. Troy looking for options. Finds Schmidt. Schmidt back to Wolishin. Wolishin looking for options. Elects to dumps to Thurmeyer, who swings it around to Troy. And Troy is able to get a big break off to the sideline, and then the disc is centered back to Schmidt. Oh, and that give-go pass to Schmidt is just a little bit out of reach. Carbon with a chance now to get this big break going into half. Boyd finds Bernard, a pick called downfield, but it was not on Bernard. That should not affect, and it should stay with him. Bernard looking for some cuts, goes back to Boyd. Adams receives that backhand break. They go back to Boyd in the middle. Boyd finds McQuarrie coming in through the stack. He's able to find Chung. Chung goes back around to Bernard. Boyd. Pick or foul or something. Bernard. A little bit of a miscue, but Boyd's able to react and keep that alive. Foul call. Perhaps just a little bit of contact as he looked for that around. Bernard showing his wily moves off. And he finds number 13, Griffin Simcoe. That's a break for Carbon, and that will take us into half. How do you think that's going to affect the Queen City Kings here, Joel?
Yeah, that's a tough way to finish a half for sure. It's just a little bit too far on that leading sort of high-release backhand pass. Unfortunate. They play pretty good defense, but, we sort of saw those few players from Carbon come over from that offensive line, and strategically they did exactly what they needed to do. They had that offensive hold to tie the game, got their turnover, and then punched in a break to bring the game back to serve. I believe Queen City Kings is receiving out of half, so we're right back on serve, one break apiece, and it's been a really good first half of Ultimate so far, Clay.
Yeah, I'd say so. So we're going to take a little bit of a break here and join you in about 4 more minutes again. Stay tuned for our second half on our Cliff Showcase Field here at the Canadian Ultimate Championships, our adult division in 2019. Welcome back. I'm Clayton Hallett, and I'm here at the Ivor Dent Sports Complex in Edmonton, Alberta, bringing you the 2019 Canadian Ultimate Championships. I'm joined here by Joel Bellavance, and today we're on our Cliff Bar Showcase Field, bringing you the Open Masters Division presented by Discraft. We've got the Queen City Kings receiving on offense in our second half versus Carbon from Alberta. The score is 8-7 Carbon, as Carbon went into half with the big break, but otherwise it's been quite a tight game. And we've seen a lot of match defense and some well-executed O-line plays. No real defensive highlights yet. And we're underway here. So Miller with the disc over to Thurmeyer. Thurmeyer finds number 24, Josh Fink, who does a great job to keep that back foot in on the sideline. He elects to dump to number 21, Travis Bond, who seemed to foul his defender a bit when he knocked him over. That was number 16, Curtis Baraknik. Bond finds Miller. And his pass is just a little too high for number 7, John Petey Schmidt. And Boyd able to make the play and then lets a big huck rip to number 4, Adams, who shows off some good speed there and a good box out on his defender and brings that down. And that is another break for Carbon.
And another just little miscue there from Queen City Kings, and Carbon happy to capitalize right away. Fantastic IO backhand all the way deep. Really great rundown by Adamson. Good adjustments along his line to make sure he could get that disc first.
Yeah, we're seeing both teams not afraid to huck though in this wind, which has been sometimes quite strong and sometimes gone. But a really well executed throw there. So in the yellow hat with the disc is number 44, Michael Stoddard. He's going to be easy to find now.
Yeah, and that's 3 points in a row for Carbon. The offensive hold, the break to take half, and then a break right out of half. So it definitely seems like momentum sort of swinging their way.
Stoddard has been pulling all game for Carbon, and Poles have stayed inbounds. Disc is centered to Topinka and bounces around. Now number 96, JF Suhua, goes back to Topinka, who is, let's just go ahead and say, a little upset with what seems like an injury there on what could have been a strip or foul. So it was a foul. The defender, number 13, Simcoe, will not contest that. It was probably just a strip that got Topinka's fingers there. He's smiling a bit now, just definitely feeling a little bit of pain. That backhand hook is not quite in for 43, Dwayne McFadden. So McFadden looking for options now. Sneaks a little break there to a receiver who I'm going to tell you who that is in a second. Thank you. That's Ryan Ziggy Ziegler with his first goal, I believe. So Queen City Kings respond, keep the game within 1.
Yeah, just another backhand huck down the open side. Led the receiver nicely. And then 43 able to hit Ziggy in the end zone. It's a nice offensive hold, 9-8. Queen City Kings definitely looking to get a break here and sort of get back into the game. Yeah, I'm interested to see if they're going to make any adjustments in their person-to-person matchups, if they're going to play zone. We haven't really seen a lot of pressure against Carbon's offensive unit. They've been pretty clean for most of the game now.
Yeah, really, I think making use of what seems like a superior speed all around. They've got a few wily players like Bernard, and then some speedsters like Reed. And Kings haven't really shown an answer for those players. So through the posts there, that pull, but Carbon recovers. Burke with the disc now, and we see a zone look from the Queen City Kings here. First zone we've seen this game. Burke now is able to punch it through to Ing. Ing around to Macquarie. Macquarie able to punch it back through for Ing. Ing seemingly knowing exactly where to stand to find that hole. He goes back to Macquarie. Ing goes through the zone. Once again, looking for that punch through. Bernard popping. Macquarie looking for options. Sticks with Bernard. Bernard on the sideline now. Swings it around to Burke. He puts it around to Enns. Back to Burke. Bernard. That zone still holding. Macquarie now. Zone slowing down a bit, though. This might be Carbon's time to break through quickly. Burke to Bernard. He swings it around Macquarie. Carbon keeping that zone moving. He finds Ing. Ing around to Bernard. Bernard finds through to Burke. Quick flip to Chung over to Macquarie. Around to Bernard. Bernard finds Reed. Reed finds Burke up the line. Bernard now on the side. And Macquarie, that athletic catch there with the knee slide to keep that alive. And Carbon survives that zone and gets a hold. So our first zone look, Joel.
Yeah, I do really like that zone look. They definitely made Carbon sort of just took them out of their offensive flow. They didn't, they weren't able to run the set play. They sort of made a mistake on the pull collect. But yeah, really nice saggy zone. Made them throw a lot of passes. But then kudos to Carbon as well to just patiently sort of work it through that zone and then do what they've been doing all game and punching in another offensive hold.
So the YouTube chat has pointed out that they're also chomping at the bit here to see some defensive highlights. So I think they're in for a treat now that we're seeing a little bit of zone and going to put some more pressure on the offense here. So our yellow-hatted Stoddard with the pull, picked up by PY, who centers to Jeff Ewan. Ewan now lets it rip. And that's broken up by number 24, Stephen Lafan. And the second effort by Queen City Kings there. What a good effort. Just the wind after that block, the wind just kind of lofted that too far ahead of number 96, JF Sirois. So unfortunately for the Queen City Kings, they have to face the chance of a Carbon break here. Stoddard finds Simcoe. Simcoe goes up the line to Boyd. Boyd flips it upfield, gets it right back in the middle now. He has Stoddard. Stoddard looking for an open number 53, Jordan West, but the foul on the movement there, kind of a lucky foul, I guess, for Queen City Kings as it breaks up that play. And we're going to have some rules. Perhaps a fast count or foul call. So it was said the observers in the junior tournament when we were speaking to them were saying that they take an educational role in the junior division, more so in the adults division, but It's always good after a few calls like that in succession to go to the observer because they're going to know better than anybody how to keep this game moving. Stoddard finds Boyd. Boyd cocked that hammer, but instead is able to find a quick Stoddard up the line. And that is a break for Carbon. Biggest lead we've seen all game, 11-8.
Yeah, really good defensive point from Carbon. They got a nice D there on Huck. And Stoddard and Boyd making quick work, moving the disc down the field really well. Some great upline cuts there just to get open on the upline, open side cut. They've sort of taken a bit of a commanding lead here moving into the last quarter of the game.
That's right. Now these games are capped at 90 minutes. In these rounds, there's no soft, just a hard cap. When the cap goes on, it's finish the point. If the game is tied at the end of that point, it will force a universe. But otherwise, when the horn is on, or sorry, when the cap is on after that horn, the game ends on that point. So with all that being said, we've still got a lot of time as we're at the 50, just about the 54 minute mark here. So not impossible for the Queen City Kings to make a comeback here. Bond flipped to the middle, gets it back from Troy. Stoddard on him. Boyd found number 33, Greg Hazel, open, but bounces out of Hazel's hands. Adams now knocking on the door and finds number 26, Luigi De La Torre. And Carbon with another break, and the Queen City Kings call a timeout. So if you're just joining us, we're here at the Ivor Dent Sports Complex in Edmonton, Alberta, bringing you the first game of our streamed lineup for the adult division at the Canadian Ultimate Championships. We're featuring two open division Masters teams. We've got Carbon from Alberta leading the Queen City Kings from Saskatchewan 12-8. We've had a fairly close game up until half, and since half, Carbon has started to run away with this one. So the Kings have taken a timeout to try and get everything back under control. As I was saying earlier, they still have lots of time, about a half hour to come back. But Joel, what do you think of the point differential right now? Is this within grasp?
That's going to be a tough lead to work back on. Since the game was at 7-6 when Queen City Kings were up 7-6, Carbon's gone on a 6-1 run since then, really capitalizing on a lot of great break opportunities, still punching in their offensive holds. And Queen City Kings, really not much. We haven't really seen too much change offensively for them. They just haven't executed as well as they were earlier in the game, and a few just sort of errant throws and a few drops, and now all of a sudden the game's sort of getting out of reach for them.
Yeah. With the way we've seen the offense operating by Carbon today, they've shown that they're comfortable dealing with any defensive set that's thrown their way. So 3 more points might not be they might not consider that a tall order.
Yeah, Queen City Kings have only managed that first break early on in the game, and since then Carbon's really settled into a nice offensive flow.
Boyd with the pull. It's fielded by Thurmeyer. Flipped up to Woloshin. Around to Schmidt. Schmidt finds McFadden. McFadden goes around to Woloshyn. Woloshyn finds a swing to Smith. Smith to Schmidt. Schmidt has Thurmeyer in the middle. Thurmeyer lets up a flick huck to Miller. And it bobbles out of Miller's hands. It was a great throw leading Miller. Miller just popped that up in front of him, but stays with it on that second effort, keeps his defender at bay and reels that in for the Queen City Kings. The score is 12-9.
A good offensive hold from Queen City Kings there. They definitely needed that. This is going to be the point in the game where they need to generate some defensive pressure here and earn the disc, get an opportunity for a break. Fantastic throw from Thurmeyer. Nice OY break into the wind. Miller looked a little frustrated that he didn't catch it on the first attempt, but luckily he was able to adjust and catch that bobble just in front of the defender there. So nice grab by Miller to make sure he reined it in.
So looking at the Carbon O-line here, we're seeing kind of the names we've been seeing all game. A fairly strong unit, very fast group. We're seeing Ing out there, who did a great job of dismantling that zone that the Kings threw earlier, and they throw it again. So Burke with the disc finds Bernard. Bernard back to Burke. Looking for Chung. Cup locks that down though. Bernard. Bernard swings to the sideline to Enns. Enns finds the hole to Macquarie, who quickly dishes it to Reed. Reed to Chung. Chung puts that out to Bernard. And then over to Reed. And Reed again showing that he's got the wheels to just get ahead of the play and bring in quite a few points here for Carbon. I believe, is that his third?
Yeah, I think so. Something like that. He's been playing pretty well. Carbon just once again having no issue moving the disc around, finding their hole, and then once they got past the wall, just really nicely, quickly moving the disc up the field, and once again punching in another break. And that's got to be frustrating for Queen City Kings. I know they've been trying some new defensive looks, and they've been generating a bit of pressure here and there, but just really haven't been able to disrupt the offensive flow that Carbon has.
That's right. Now these teams were actually seeded high. These are two high seeds playing each other. It is possible they're thinking that at this point in the tournament, it's the first game. It's a long tournament. Now might be the time where we don't want to show all of our cards to one of our more serious opponents, and perhaps too it's just maybe let's just feel out the other team here and see what works against them and what doesn't, as it is sometimes inevitable that they will face them again in the playoff bracket. So we might just be seeing the Kings here still trying to stay in it, but also saying, all right, we're going to figure out what works and what doesn't versus Carbon here. So Stoddard's pull makes it down to the end zone. Bond goes back to Troy. Troy back to Bond. We've got kind of a slough zone here from Carbon, where the cup's not too tight, but it looks like the lane choices are tough. But Queen City Kings are able to find the holes here as Schmidt gets it back to Bond, back around to Troy. And kind of a passive zone here. Schmidt to Bond, who finds Thurmeyer on the edge. Thurmeyer back to Bond. Kings here doing a good job just to keep the disc moving and not letting Carbon get set. Thurmeyer finds Schmidt. Bond to Hazel. Hazel to Troy. Troy gets it around to Bond, who goes back to Thurmeyer. Thurmeyer holds it. Finds Schmidt and gets back. Now Kings have broken out here. Finch gets it to Thurmeyer. Thurmeyer is able to punch it to number 24, Josh Fink.
Yeah, nice to see a new look from Carbon there, trying something a little bit different with, I think they had like a 3-1 in the cutter space, so they had 3 defenders sort of poaching underneath, and then one deep defensive player in the backfield. But yeah, nice job by Queen City Kings just to move it up slowly, and then Thurmeyer with just another really nice OI flick, nice and fast.
Yeah, we saw a lot of patience there from the Queen City Kings. That zone was sort of, I'd say that cup was sort of loose. It's almost like Carbon was waiting for the Queen City Kings to take those shots into the middle and attack those, but the Queen City Kings showing that they're happy just to wait for the sure shot and keep it moving around. Could argue that ate up a lot of clock, but we're only at our 64th minute here, so still a lot of time left in the game. A little bit of a scare from Burke, but he keeps that pull in his hands. Macquarie now to Bernard. Bernard finds Enns. Enns to Reed. Reed goes back to Bernard. Reed now on the brick mark. And we have a pick call on Reed, so that will go back to Bernard as number 9, Jeff Ewan, is able to catch up. Bernard now finds Reed. Reed to Macquarie. Bernard makes a slash cut across, and then a quick flip over to Reed, just knocking on the door now. And Reed is able to put that out to space for Ben Burke, and Carbon is within 1.
Yeah, Queen City Kings just not really able to generate the pressure they need. Carbon just looks really confident and smooth out there with the disc. They know what they're doing. The players are just really using their speed to just get open at will, and great throws. Macquarie, Bernard doing a good job of just sort of taking care of the disc and working it over to the break side, changing the angles. And that's going to put them in prime position here to take this game.
We've had a pretty clean game. Joel, I was telling you off stream, but I'll say it again to absolve myself here. But, we all sometimes get that stereotype with Masters, expecting a lot of calls, but we've just seen kind of a high effort, well-spirited, clean game here. And when the calls have been made, both teams have been able to work out the call quite quickly, or if requiring assistance from an observer, they've been resolved really fast. This is kind of one of those games you enjoy streaming, as they just kind of move right along and you just get to watch the ultimate rather than the discussions. So Stoddard with the pull. Again, keeping it in bounds. That's going to be fielded by Woloshin right in the middle of his end zone, who flips it up to Troy. Vertical stack set by the Queen City Kings here. Bond with the disc, but as is with many vertical stacks, we have a pick. Bond now. Flips it back to Troy. And Bond able just to stay in the area and get that back in the middle. He goes around to Hazel. Hazel looking for options. Doesn't like the swing shots. Instead, gets a floaty break over to Miller. And Miller's going to put up a high backhand, which just sails out of bounds. Had a few receivers in the area, but when the wind catches that edge here at Ivor Dent, those discs tend to sail up and out, whether it's out the side or out the back. Definitely a trend we were seeing in the junior tournament with their Hucks. Stoddard now finds De La Torre. He puts it up. And Queen City Kings, number 24, Josh Fink, able to break that up. And a drop from the Queen City Kings. So Carbon's going to have another chance here. Parallel with the brick line. Adams looking for Stoddard up the line. It's not there. And now we have a call. Adams a little frustrated with the foul call they asked to make there, feeling that number 23, Wolo, was rapping.
Yeah, he's still illegally marking.
Yeah.
He's got to take a step off there.
Also on the mark, technically, you should never be able as a defender to draw a straight line from 2 points on your body that cross through the offensive player's body. And it looks right now that Wolo's mark, especially his hands, are, as Adams is trying to demonstrate, or Adamson, I should say, is trying to demonstrate to him that indeed that imaginary line is going right through him. So Adamson dumps to Stoddard. Stoddard finds West, who flips that in to Adamson. Pretty happy he got that point. We'll give him another shot at that spike later. But Carbon with a break to pull out the win there. Josh, story of this game from your perspective? Joel, I said Josh, I'm sorry. Joel, story of the game from your perspective?
Yeah, I think, the story of the game has got to be Carbon's offensive unit. They only gave up one break at the beginning of the game, and since then we just saw really efficient, smooth offense from them all game. Really not fazed by different defensive looks, adjusted well in the weather, and then just executed well in their throws. So kudos to them for playing a really clean offensive game. And I think, for Queen City Kings, they came out really well. They played a great first half. They had a good opportunity to take half 8-6. And just a few drops in the second half that sort of cost them the lead, and they just weren't able to generate the defensive pressure they needed.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how they respond, though. It's still early in the tournament for both teams. You got to think as your Carbon, you don't want to ride this high too long. You got to get focused for your next game. And Queen City Kings, the same thing. You don't want to focus on this too long. Get ready for your next game. You know what works, what doesn't, and exploit what you're good at. So I'm Clayton Howlett, with Joel Bellavance, and we're going to sign off shortly now from our Cliff Bar Showcase Field at the Ivor Dent Sports Complex in Edmonton, Alberta. Later this afternoon on this same field, we'll be bringing you the Open Division matchup of Phoenix versus Blackfish. So that'll be Ottawa versus Vancouver. That stream is on at 2:30 local time, so don't forget to tune in later for the men's matchup here at the 2019 Canadian Ultimate Championships. We'll catch you later.